to the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, an unfiltered look into the global vacation and short-term rental industry.
I'm Mateo Bradford.
And I'm John Stokinger.
And this is our podcast. We bring the right people to the table at the right time, giving you an inside view and take on the short-term rental industry like no other podcast can.
Morning, Mateo. How are you?
Hey, another week, brother. I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm great. Episode 8. We're just chugging
favorite
along.
number.
Eight. I'm super stoked. Today we are blessed to have Heather Baer joining us today, the queen of short-term rental podcasts. Yeah. We're not talking age. I've already been told we're not allowed to do that, so we're not going to do that. That was last week. Go back, listen. Everyone's 27 or 28. We're just going to leave it at that.
There you go.
So Heather Baer, vacation rental formula, cottage link rental management, cottage blogger. Has been doing the podcast thing a heck of a lot longer, but not a bad thing, a great thing. Longer. How many episodes? I can't even remember. I know you know off the tip of your tongue, Heather.
Just coming up to 394.
Ooh, 300. We're I can't
podcast even, goals.
There's some goals. We're putting out one a week. That was our goal. Yeah. I mean, we might have to skip one with a holiday week or something like that, but we're putting out one a week. The goal is 50 this year. So I think.
Well, when I started off doing podcasts back in 2013, oh my God, that's not far off 8 years ago. I was told that if you could get past your first 7, then you'll be fine and you will be consistent. And you've done it, guys.
We did it. We've got past 7. That's amazing.
From your mouth to the universe's understanding. Thank you. That means we made it, John.
Yeah, I guess we could take that with a grain of salt. I think we just need to keep on putting out quality content and getting great guests, which we have. In the upcoming weeks, we have 2 amazing guests already scheduled. Heather today. So we're on the right track, to say the least. So I'm excited. Heather, you have some exciting news as of what, yesterday?
As of yesterday, Ontario cottage rentals were opened up again on Friday. We start on Friday after 6 long months, and that's just this time round. So this time last year on June the 5th, we opened up after the first lockdown. And then we had a great summer, fantastic summer. We went all the way through to December, and then it all hit again. We were locked down from Christmas Day, Boxing Day. We were locked down, and I think we had a 2-week, because our government is prone to a little bit of flip-flopping. So we were opened up for 2 weeks in February, and we all got all excited, and then all got locked down again. But hopefully the Ontario Roadmap to Reopening has been launched, and we start on Friday. So it's been a busy day. Yesterday was amazingly busy.
Well, we appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us this morning. I know you've been busy, so thank you so much. What's that?
So let's talk about it. I want to hear a story. I want to know what was going on in Canada. We've been talking about Europe and the US and all these other places. We overlook our neighbor to the north.
Well, I always like to say, we're like your attic. You know we're up there, but you have no idea what's in it.
Fair enough.
That's a great analogy.
Fair enough.
And we actually have a lot of good stuff in it if people come up here and explore it. However, it's been an interesting 15 months when once the borders were shut in March. I was actually down in Texas all of last winter, and we sort of hot-footed it back in March to get through before the borders closed.
Yeah.
And here we have been ever since with, as I say, flip-flopping backwards and forwards. Sometimes we're open, sometimes we're not, gathering restrictions, and a lot of ambiguity, a lot of interpretation. How do we interpret what our province is giving out? Because it very much like you have the federal input, and then you've got the state input. So we have our federal input, which is basically to shut the borders, and then everything was then left to the provinces to sort out after that. So I don't know if you recall, a number of years ago, we had a mayor of Toronto called Rob Ford.
I do.
And he had an issue. He had a little bit of an issue. And sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago. His brother, Doug, is our premier of the province. So it sort of moved on. The Rob Ford mantle has moved to Doug Ford. If anyone out there is interested, you really should go and Google Rob Ford, Ontario.
Quite the story. So is his brother as much of a character as he was? Because I remember he was a pretty interesting guy.
He was a pretty interesting guy. Yes, I think there was some drug use involved.
With politicians? No. Yeah, no.
Well, it was, yeah, but it was
bad. I remember.
Pretty much published and out there and scandalous, and all sorts of media related things. But yes, we have his brother as our premier, who started out, I think, as many did, doing a great job. Standing up every day and said, "We're in this together, folks."
Right.
And it's all rah-rah stuff. And then certainly since Christmas, it's all crumbled, and I know he's looking for his positive public opinion, which has waned dramatically over the past 6 months. But whatever, we're now reopened. We believe there's some gathering restrictions indoors, but we are not in a position. We've got probably 2,000 rentals coming up over the course of the summer. We're not in a position to go knocking on 2,000 doors and saying, "Excuse me, are you keeping within the government restrictions?" All we can do is tell people to make their own decisions, and we will not be responsible for any fines that may be related to them not responding to those restrictions.
And how are those policed anyways? It's normally that nosy neighbor that is calling someone up, but unless it's actually brought to the attention of someone, who's gonna care one way or the other?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some publicized, the Airbnb rental that was overoccupied, and a neighbor called the police, and the police came out, and this was 2 weeks ago, and fined every person in the group $850, and the owner was fined as well. There have been those, but that was during the time of lockdown.
Gotcha.
So in general, I mean, we certainly stuck with all the restrictions. We said, if the government says no rentals, then no rentals, because we're a responsible company and we want to act within the guidelines. But it was easy enough for them to go out, therefore, and find the odd ones that were out and about still renting. But I think once the majority of Toronto starts moving north to cottage country, how the heck are they going to cover off every single rental? Because we've got 2,000 rentals coming up. There's dozens more agencies, thousands more independent owners. So
you mentioned lockdown, and can you go? What was the catalyst for having a lockdown, reopening, and then having another 6-month lockdown? Because I guess I don't understand, and I'm curious if anyone else understands why re-lockdown. What was it?
Just because of hospitalizations, intensive care units getting overrun. And we had the second wave, which was in around about December, pretty high second wave. And then it began to come down in February. Then we were opened up again for 2 weeks, and almost immediately those numbers started going up again. And then we were hit by a really dramatic third wave in April, where intensive care units were completely maxed out. They were moving patients from Toronto out to other areas. And that I would think that is the sole reason for them locking us back down again. And now our numbers are back to some really reasonable levels, because we're at 60% vaccinated across the province. Certainly first vaccinations, because I'm not sure if you know that we have 4 months between our vaccinations.
4 months instead of
what?
whatever, a month here.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
first shot, 4 months, second shot.
Yeah. Basically, so they could get this number of 60%, because you get 70% coverage with your first shot.
Right.
So get 60% of the population vaccinated with the first shot and then move into the second one. It appears to have worked.
Let's knock on some wood. I'm not going to
Yeah.
really knock because no one really wants to hear that, but
I'm okay. I just want to get into the US. That's all. Just open the borders for me.
well, yeah. When is
I'd like
that?
to go to Canada.
No idea. Apparently there are some talks underway at the moment. But what it has done, and I guess, everything has a silver lining, and I'm forever the optimist and forever the one looking for the bright side of everything.
Right.
So having the border shut has done one huge thing for us, and that has stopped people traveling like me.
Right.
So where are they going to go for their vacation? Well, in the US, of course, they've got a lot of options. Here in Ontario, we haven't been able to travel from province to province. So, the border's been shut between us and other provinces. Those, I think, that will probably be relaxed soon. But it means that everybody planning a vacation has had to move to taking the domestic route. And
Right.
now they're going to come 2 hours north to us, which has meant since February, we have been 100% booked for the summer. We've got 140 properties. We've been 100% booked. We are now continually, the moment we take on a new property, I think the record was 45 minutes since from listing a property to having not just a first booking, but having a whole month of July booked in 45
Amazing.
minutes of listing.
Yeah.
So we have over 700 families on a waiting list.
Right.
Wow.
And that's what happened here in the US, last summer. That's what happened in the whole Eastern Seaboard. Any of these drive-to locations that's exactly what happened in companies were seeing this. And this year is even greater. I mean, you're going to probably, the more, Canada relaxes, and then imagine when those borders open, everyone that's here in the US that's been doing their domestic travel, that they're doing their staycation or whatever they want to call it. It's now, oh man, it's still a heck of a lot easier for us to go to Mexico or Canada than it is to fly overseas. And it's still an international destination, and it's fun and exciting, and you take your family to go do something like this. But I'm glad that you're seeing that occupancy. It's
the timing has been perfect. The timing could have been so different. Last year we opened up on June, because our primary season is July and August.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, as long as we get July and August, we can get through the rest of the year, because July and August fuels the entire year. So the timing has just been perfect, because last year we opened up on June the 5th. This year we're opening up on June the 11th. It could have been different. It could have been that a third wave came in June and we were shut down for July and August, which would have been absolutely devastating for everybody in our network and everybody who is involved in tourism, really. So if again, silver lining was the timing.
So Heather, I got a good question. So as a business owner, right, and someone who's had to weather this storm, we think about the things that affect our business, natural disasters, other things that that may pop up and happen. Pandemics, weren't on the top of my list. How did your business survive? Like, tell me a little bit about your story of the past year from a business owner perspective.
When we hit in March, I mean, the government have been good financially. Mm-hmm. The first thing they did was offer a very substantial loan, $10,000 of which was not paid. We don't have to pay that back. And then they offered up another loan later in the year. So it allowed us a little. It wasn't enough. I mean, we're carrying 8 full-time staff. Right. So, and we had to furlough in March, but we'd only did that for 3 months. And then we made the conscious decision that we would not do that again, and use the time in September going through the rest of the year to work on projects, make substantial changes. Yeah. So that was very beneficial to us, because, you know, for many companies that are working year round, you don't have the benefit of that glorious time to sit and just work on a project and not have a telephone ring or have an email come in. So we took those opportunities. But having said that, this last 6 months has been, you know, a struggle. We do rely on the December through June activity to pay our staff.
Right.
You know, it doesn't make money, but it actually pays the overheads.
Right.
And we have had nothing from December through June. And that, you know, we are fully booked. We are taking on new properties, but we also had a large reduction in properties that we were able to book. I think we probably lost 30%, maybe 40% of our inventory.
Okay. So
like permanently or just transitioned out? Like
I would say 20% has gone permanently. This is owners who decided to sell.
Right.
I mean, and we had one last week. You know, we had a full summer of booking, and the owner said, hey, you know, the money truck has just appeared outside my door, and I can't. They paid $400,000 for the property 18 months ago. They expect to get $850,000 for it this week.
It's insane.
I mean, why would somebody not do that? They bought it as an investment. They're selling it. So we had a large number of owners do that. Mostly they did it earlier in the year, and we were able to relocate everybody. Now, of course, when they're up and selling their properties, we've got nowhere to relocate them to.
That's an interesting thing, because I mean, I'm assuming that in Canada it's the same as in here, that lumber and everything, the prices have absolutely skyrocketed, and we're seeing the real estate side of things. You know, people that might not have even been in the market to buy because they were, you know, hey, I'm going to go build a new home. This is what we do. They're snagging up homes instantly because it's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper to go ahead and just snag that home up for more inventory as opposed to go buy it. So are you seeing that as well up in Canada and in Ontario?
Exactly. I spoke to somebody the other day that was looking for property to buy, and I have spent a lot of my time in the past 6 months advising people who are looking to buy to rent out. You know, this is what you should look for. And I spoke to this guy, and I said, so telling him what I felt were the most important features of this property. He said, the most important feature for me, he said, is that the deck is in good condition. He said, forget everything else. He said, if I had to build a new deck, it would probably take me away from, I'm sorry, I hope you're not hearing that.
Not hearing anything.
No,
okay. All right. Yes, I have a telephone ringing in the background.
No, we're fine.
Yeah. So, you know, priorities have changed for people, and they are, you know, they're looking at those things, because yes, you know, a deck that was that might have cost them, you know, $1,000, $1,500 a year ago is now 4,000. Oh, speaking of telephones,
this is such a rookie move. Speaking of,
yeah, and so I let my telephone ring.
The question is, are you going to edit it out?
Probably not. No. Time. I got, you know, when we can
Keep it
afford
real.
to have someone come in and actually come ahead and do the editing for us, and the producing, then I'll edit it out. But no, we're just going to roll with this.
Matt Landau told me years ago, I said, I never edit. Yeah. I'm sure he does, actually, because he's got a team now. He said, but he never edited. That I never edited any of the conversations I had with him. Anyway, that aside, so yes, it's been a different market. We know. I spoke to an owner this morning, a potential owner, who was looking at a property that was listed at $700,000, and he said, "What do you think?" And I hate this question. What do you think I should offer? Mm-hmm. And I said, I have no idea what you should offer. I said, but you know, what's happening is that that $700,000 property will probably go for around 900 to $1 million.
Easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It is insane. It's turned the realty market upside down. It's also turned the rental market upside down, because we rented a lot of our properties way back in September, October. After last summer, people were on the ball. They wanted to lock in their 2021 vacation.
Right.
So they booked last September, October. And now we're seeing, the odd cancellation here and there. And I am shocked at the prices we were renting for last year. Seriously, we rented that for $2,800 a week.
Right.
We're now taking that cancellation and listing it at $4,500 a week.
It's insane.
And it will go. And we're not gouging. We're keeping comparable with the other property managers in the area. I mean, we have a really good network of property managers, and we discuss this back and forth and pricing, but the pricing has gone from 20 to 50%.
My question,
and I think we've seen that everywhere.
Yeah, my question is, with the lumber prices and everything increasing, we know that there's an ebb and flow. We know that's going to relax, and we know that's going to go back down to a manageable number for people wanting to build and do everything. But do you think that the VR space, the vacation and short-term rental space, is going to ever come back down into a more, or do you think it's going to stay where it's at?
That's such a great question, because I'm talking to owners all the time and saying, okay, you can get $7,500, $8,000 a week for this property. 2 years ago, I might have listed it at $4,500. This may not be sustainable. I think I've used those 4 words more than anything else this year. This may not be sustainable. Don't go into this thinking that we will keep at this level. Because Carl Shepard said it in that Skift Live interview. He said, I am not making any predictions for 2022.
Right.
Look, shout out to Carl Shepard, right? Like, I love Carl. He's a great guy, great mentor. He always kind of drops, these gems on us, but it's actually true, right? Like, I was thinking you should get that, put that on your header or somewhere on your site. Like, these results are not sustainable and are not normal. Like, take advantage of this now. But again, like, it'll be interesting to see, will people, we know how markets go. They get in these frenzies and they get used to these prices, and then, when is the bottom going to fall out? Are we looking at that intelligently, right? Like, how are we monitoring, when this flow is gonna, when this faucet's gonna turn off? And
I saw there's a Market Watch article about Airbnb that I just read this morning, just saying that Airbnb used to be where you got a deal. You've got the best value of accommodation, and now it's now it is mainstream, and you don't get that same. It's not the cheap option anymore. Vacation rentals are not the cheap option anymore. They are the preferred option. I love that too.
Right.
But yes, in answer to your question, John, sustainability. Who knows? Who knows? Same with realty prices.
Right.
There's a lot of people sitting there going, I'm not going to buy now, because the time will come when interest rates go up, and all these people that moved out from the city to get this wonderful version of their new version of life in the country might think that hey, Starbucks is not as close as I like it to be, and I do actually have to go into the office now. So it's just there's a lot of not knowing going on at the moment.
And it has to do with inventory too. Where I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the inventory for homes that are, say, 200,000 up is drastically, I think it's a third of what it was 2 years ago. So if it's even though it's not a seller's market, it's a seller's market, and it's not a seller's market. It's a weird market right now.
It depends on where you are, right? Literally depends on where you are. I'm in Atlanta, right? And I'm actually in the process of selling one of my properties right now. Look, I had a tenant move out on Saturday. I showed it on Sunday. By Tuesday, I had 4 offers.
Right.
No work, nothing. Like, they moved out, like, haven't touched it, haven't cleaned it. They walked it dirty and were like giving us probably 10 to 15% over what we're asking for on the price.
Yeah, and that's the same that could happen here, because there's no inventory. If I were to list my home today, and it's already, it's crazy.
Is it stimulus money? Like, where is this coming? Like, this is the thing. Like, all I hear is cash buyers, cash offers. Like, everyone's coming with cash. I'm just out of the loop, and it's pretty incredible that people are just sitting on cash like that. But it can't be. I can't see that sustaining, which again, we'll see where that goes.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Heather, I wanted to talk to you about, so I've been following you for quite a while on your Facebook page. I've been following you and your posts that you put online. And I had a question for you is that I was looking at, you mentioned earlier you were forever an optimist. There were probably in the whole year and a half that you've been dealing with this, there's every optimist. There's probably 3 or 4 posts where you really went ahead and put your feelings and wore them right there on your sleeve. Was that hard for you to go ahead and really come out and that maybe not super optimistic? It's still at the end, there was always optimism, but really put your feelings out there?
I don't think so. No, it was realism. I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist, and we all go through. Even I don't know if you remember. There's an old movie called Pollyanna. Many years ago, it was a Disney movie, and it was about this girl who's everything would go fine, positivity gone nuts.
Okay.
And I've been called Pollyanna over the course of my life, but that does not mean that I'm not realistic as well, and have downtimes and some serious downtimes where you just sit back and go, it's all flooding in, don't know where I don't know where we're going with this. And I did that. There was and I can't remember what I wrote in that recent post, which is probably one you're referencing from
I don't know, maybe not.
One of my Facebook groups. And just after that, as soon as I posted that, I had a call from my business partner. He said, "What's up? What's going on? What can I do?" Because I don't think he'd ever seen a post like that. And I just, just one of those days. But I think everybody goes through it, and I think it's fair to come across and share that realism. I hear it from others. Evelyn Badia is from the hosting journey. Mm-hmm. Evelyn is absolutely upfront right now. She's going through some amazing stuff. She's dealing with cancer. She's going through chemotherapy. Yes. She's also just bought 5 properties in Georgia and Arizona, having sold her place in New York. But she's out there saying, I talk to Evelyn a lot. She's super positive, but she's very raw and sharing as well. And I think I'm, occasionally I get into I'm going to emulate that and
well, I loved it. I mean,
exactly what I'm feeling.
I know you're a positive person, and everyone knows you're a positive person, but sharing that realism and the true going through
it hasn't
not
been
every
easy.
day, not every month is optimistic.
Yeah.
There's it's real. And
yeah,
I love
it. It takes strength to do that, right? Like it takes strength to tell the real story, right? I think when you paint the optimism brush, people oftentimes just see that part and think that's 24/7, 365. And they're not mutually exclusive, right? Like you can be an optimist and face troubles, right? And still struggle and have down days. I appreciate, Heather, like you doing that and bringing that out, because I think that side of the narrative doesn't necessarily get highlighted, because it doesn't, when you think, oh, you got to have a positive outlook, it doesn't mean you can't say, hey, I'm down today, or, oh, this sucks, or those types of things. And that's not the complete truth.
And I put it out there. I put it out there to my team and my business partner, just say, hey, today you're going to talk me off the edge
right.
because I'm out there on the edge right now. And I think that one recently, we hire for the summer. We hire somebody to come in for the summer to help out with issues. So we have a fabulous customer service manager, and she needs the help for the summer. Somebody who'll work weekends. So we'd found this person. And from January through, from March through last week, we had been training her. And then out of the blue, she suddenly said, oh, I'm sorry, I can't work weekends.
Yeah, that's hard.
And that was hard. And we had to let her go. And we're now in the process of hiring
Yeah.
And I think that came at that time, and it was just, at that time we weren't open. We didn't know when we were going to open, and then to be hit with somebody, and these things happen to us all in this business, is that somebody will quit at the most inopportune time, and you have to be ready for it. But no matter how much emergency planning you do, and I do a lot of emergency planning, it doesn't cover everything that will happen. But you've just got to take it and turn it around, and make it work to your advantage. But that doesn't stop me coming out and posting, hey, that was shit. It was a really shitty day.
I think your attitude points to it, right? Like, it's what you do with it, right? Like, it's, knowing these things are going to happen, finding your strength and not committing to that being the result, and that you can turn it around. There is that silver lining.
Well, I'm very much a pragmatist, I use the S word, and I don't know if you bleep that out or if you don't.
This is the no bullshit.
Okay. You're absolutely right. So
Like,
so
please,
my attitude
you can use the F word if you wanted to. We don't care.
Shit happens, and deal with it. You can't go back and start micromanaging what happened before. I mean, that comes later. That comes later. But in the immediacy, you've just got to get on with it and deal with what comes your way. But it doesn't stop you feeling pretty down about it at the time.
Yeah. Well, no, and I appreciate you being able to speak to that, because for myself too, like this past year was a struggle. I try to be positive. I struggled through this past year, right? Like, seriously, John knows it. He's a friend of mine. All my close friends know that it was not a good year, like, just personally. But again, it was hearing that I wasn't alone, hearing that it was other people within this space that also struggled and weren't always positive and didn't know how this was going to end, and that was okay. Appreciate that perspective, appreciate that narrative. So.
Yeah, sorry if I put you on the spot there. I didn't really think you would care, though.
Oh, I don't care. I just there's this time. I find the whole social media thing just really fascinating. I'm often ready to post something, and I think, no, it's got political connotations here. I'm going to step back and not do, and that is something I will not do. I'm not nailing my flag to the wall at all.
You can't. I mean, it's tough, you mentioned earlier, to pivot a little bit from this, but we mentioned earlier, previous to us actually hitting record on this, we talked about the amount of short-term rental hosts in the US or in North America. And we've had a range from, I think Skip, you said, is reporting that there's 10,000.
Managers. Short-term rental managers.
Yeah, short-term rental managers, but there's other companies that are saying they're closer to 20,000. So, and all these people, all of these rental managers are all going through the same things this past year. Mm-hmm. So they're all dealing with these different problems, and they're all coming from their own perspective, and they're all, I'll
just give you a story from one person that I've talked to a couple of times over this past 6 months, and this guy called Richard Colwell. He runs a very small property management company in Alberta, and he has been pretty much shut down since March of last year because the majority of his clients come across the border, and his is a devastating story because he's tried to bring in the domestic market, but there's so many companies in those ski areas that are vying for any trade whatsoever. So these are the people that are still going to be struggling until our borders open, and there's a lot of them who deal with traffic coming across the border and don't have the domestic market, and I really feel for them.
Yeah. Is that and please excuse my unfamiliarity with the Great White North. Is that like around Tremblant?
No, Tremblant's in Quebec. So
okay.
This is Alberta all the way over on the west coast. Okay. So Canmore, His place is in Canmore, Alberta, which is north of, now get my geography here, I think north of maybe Idaho, Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Washington, going into British Columbia, right?
Yes, yeah. Alberta's
Yeah,
Alberta's to the east of BC.
Yeah, so it's probably like eastern Washington, northern.
Yeah, so it's the Rockies. You know, it's
Right.
it's all the Rockies vacation areas, and I think there's a lot of people there who have been struggling. In BC, I guess there's a Vancouver market that's more local. But in Alberta, I know they have struggled. They've actually had real problems with their COVID issues in the last couple of months as well. Their third wave has been that they've been pushing out some of their ICU patients to other provinces even.
Oh wow!
Okay.
So they're ill-equipped to handle the surge in that space.
Yeah, they're much smaller. They're much smaller space, much smaller province. Yeah. So yes, it's just like the US. We're not just one homogenous country.
Right.
We're a lot of different, very, very different locations, very different tourism regions. Tremblant, of course, is absolutely fantastic in Quebec. It's maybe a 5-hour drive for me. It's not that. No, I've moved 7 hours, but it's really not that far. Quebec have had their own issues, but they're coming out of it too right now. But they have more of a domestic market. It's it's a nice ski hill. It's not massive mountains, and attracts a lot more people coming out of Montreal and maybe Ottawa.
The interesting thing with the Canadian market, just in Canada in general, for to think about how vast of a country it is, and how huge, but still how non-densely, that you have your densely populated areas, but then there's just space.
Oh yes. I can't remember the statistic, but it's something like that 90% of Canadians live within 2 hours of the US border.
Yeah.
Because it gets too cold further north.
Yeah.
And the mosquitoes are the size of B-52s when you get further north.
I grew up in Maine, and so that the state bird in Maine was the black fly.
Yeah. And to be, we think the pandemic killed off the black fly here because we have not had them this year.
Oh, no kidding.
No black fly. It was been really weird. So it's like, oh, there was something else good that came out of all this. No black fly.
Well, here is to an amazing summer.
Yeah.
You are open as of yesterday. I mean, I'm so excited for Alberta. I'm so excited for you. I hope that the other provinces follow suit if they haven't already. And do you have any words of wisdom or anything you'd like to leave our audience today, Heather?
Yeah, it would be learn from this. Really, really learn from this. About 8 years ago, I think I did a presentation at VRMA on emergency management, and it was very sparsely attended. And it was, and in that, I came up with a whole load of things that you needed to prepare for. And at the end of it, at the end of that long laundry list of things you need to prepare for was, hey, and you never know, there could be a pandemic.
Oh, shoot.
So you did hit it on the head.
And I said, you've got to prepare for that as well. And of course, we've been through the SARS pandemic in 2003 anyway, which was, on a much smaller scale, obviously. Right. It seemed large at the time. But we actually put things in place at that time. And one of them was this thing that if a pandemic strikes, the owners of second homes would want to go and move into them. Mm-hmm. So we had to be prepared for this happening and how we would relocate guests and how we would deal with all this. And when this started, we had some of these instances where owners wanted to relocate all their guests, and we had the procedures in place. So yeah, learn from what's happened within the last year and apply it to going forward, because this won't be the last time. And there was such a lot of learning to
Well,
take
I
forward.
hope they allow you to continue to teach that. I think it's going to be important to have these conversations into, at VRMAs and the other events. And, when we're talking about how to prepare, for events like this. And, now that we know this is a reality in our world, hopefully we can, and you can share your experience and your emergency planning with other managers and help them, best prepare for this. But
right at the end, in fact, pandemic wasn't the last on that list. Zombie apocalypse was the last on the list.
Well, yeah.
Well,
I mean, you never know.
You never know.
We never knew about a pandemic, so let's be prepared.
Heather, I got one last question for you. What are you excited about going into the rest of this year and into next year?
I am excited about the border opening so I can head south and spend my entire winter from November through to April in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and work from there. I've always worked from home. I now want to work from away. So that's what I'm excited about.
No bird life. All right.
But no, I'm just excited. I'm just always excited in general. There's always some opportunities out there.
If the borders open up, are you going to be, obviously, we're going to see you in San Antonio, correct?
I'm not sure the border's going to be opened up by that time, but we shall see. And if they are, I very likely will be there, yes.
Great. Well, if those of you have not listened, and I find this hard to believe, if you're listening to us, you've probably already listened to Heather Bears before, but listen to the vacation rental formula. Listen to, can you go ahead and put your information out there, Heather?
Okay, so it's the Vacation Rental Success podcast out of my company, which is the Vacation Rental Formula, where we are building up training materials for property managers, mainly my passion is to help small property managers to achieve greatness. And so whatever I can do with my 20 years of experience of running a property management company, I will do that. So yes, you can find me at vacationrentalformula.com. Email me, heather@vacationrentalformula.com. Always happy to hear from people, and listen to the podcast, and listen to every podcast that's out there, because there are some amazing ones. And thank you guys for coming into the space and adding your unique perspective as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on board. We knew we couldn't compete with tips and tricks and success. That's not our forte. So that's why we're focus is on, the news and culture. And
love it.
But awesome. Thanks so much, Heather. Appreciate you.
You are very welcome.